Hey, you guys, welcome. Thank you for being here. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit more about Selena Quintanilla and Yolanda Saldivar. And these are just my personal thoughts, feelings, observations, examinations, my energetic, what I'm feeling and getting off the situation. I'm not a professional. Please do your own research and stay informed. But I've been kind of delving back into the life of Selena the past week or so, listening to her music. I've been a fan of her for around 25 years. And in watching and listening to different interviews, I've been all over it this week, you guys. While driving and running errands, different podcasts, different interviews with the family, with Chris Perez, going back and listening and watching some of her old performances from the early 90s with Los Dinos, just watching her magnetic stage presence and that passionate, soulful voice, and just love Selena. Amazing, radiant light and creative life force upon this earth. She was. So yeah, I've been kind of picking up on the energy of her this week. And, that's kind of what I do. It's kind of a weird, energetic, spiritual thing. But, when I love people's life stories, and when I take interest in someone, I kind of get in there and I really absorb, what they were about and try to pick up on their essence as much as I can. And it's an interesting thing. And then sometimes people will come to me, things will cross my path. For instance, Maya Angelou. Now, that's not a lifelong thing that, being into her work or a fan of hers growing up. I just, ran across her a few years ago, probably about 10 years back. And it was because of a documentary. And I got to watching and learning about her life and what she endured and all she had to go through, Dr. Maya Angelou. And it was just astounding to me. It moved me so much. And I became, I ran across a couple of her books. I actually found them. They found me. I'll put it that way. I kind of believe sometimes you don't find books or pick books. They pick you. They find you. That's kind of how I look at life sometimes. And it's kind of weird. I had never taken much interest in Dr. Angelou before that point. But after that, it was like her energy came into my life in a certain way. And it's weird, but sometimes people's energy does that. And I will pick up on things and learn new things that I needed to know, or even questions that I had been wondering about certain things in life will get answered, or I'll be inspired to a new path, or it's pretty incredible. But some people I have followed since I was a kid. Some people I have been really into them my whole life. So it's just one of those things. I really love people's life stories and, examining the different parts of their lives, whether it was tragic or whether it was inspired and, helped humanity or whatever the case was. And so in doing this week, while listening to a documentary, I ran across a subject called Erotomania. And, even though I study psychology and all these types of things, I had not really been familiar with that term. Erotomania is also known as Clarenbolt's syndrome. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but apparently it's a relatively uncommon condition, and it's characterized by an individual's delusions of another person being infatuated with them. Delusional behavior. It's listed in the DSM-5 as a subtype of a delusional disorder. Basically, the belief of reciprocated love and intimacy, even from people they've never met. Yeah. They may believe, for instance, if it's really severe, they may believe things like, oh, this particular artist is talking and communicating with me and sending me messages through their music just for me, not for anybody else. Or the president has been sending me, certain codes through their addresses to the nation just for me. Or it's that kind of shit. At its most severe, they get delusional like that, and they really think that they have a relationship or a friendship with that person that they're fixated on. And it doesn't have to be a celebrity. It could be a neighbor. It could be the girl that works down at Hooters. It could be the checkout person at Kroger. It could be a coworker, just someone that this person who has these kinds of damages and troubles, someone that they begin to fixate on. And you don't have to do anything to encourage them. You don't have to even know them or have ever even spoken a word to them. Or it could be where in passing you might have said hello. Maybe you checked them out at the counter. Hey, have a wonderful day. Oh, I love your shirt. Come again. Maybe you gave them the slightest bit of kindness or, in passing. It's that kind of shit. And these people start watching you and fixating on you and fantasizing about you and building a fictitious relationship in their head, believing that you love them and that you're going to marry them, or, whatever the case is. It might not even be romantic. It might just be, that person wants me to be their best friend and their right-hand man or their girl, or I'm going to be, okay. So they believed that Yolanda Saldivar had a degree of this erotomania. And the documentary I ran across was 3 different women and 3 different people who had this disorder or parts of it, like a degree of it. It was Rebecca Schaefer, an actress from the 80s, a budding young star. Christina Grimmie, another budding young singer on YouTube. And then Selena Quintanilla. And all 3 of these women their lives were taken by people who had a degree of this erotomania. And you can look up the other 2 cases if you're not familiar with those. Rebecca Schaefer was back in the 80s, and Christina Grimmie. Guys showed up at her concert because she posted a picture of herself and her boyfriend. And this guy that had been obsessing over her and fixating on her and just really believing that by watching her on YouTube that she was his and they had a relationship and she belonged to him and she really was gonna blah blah blah, and they had never met, never spoken. And when she gets a boyfriend and posts that shit online, this guy shows up at her concert and takes her life. I mean, just insane, right? So same thing with Rebecca Schaefer. Now, in the case of Yolanda Saldivar, and what happened with Selena, it was a little different because Yolanda did get into her life and she was personally involved with Selena and she got really close to her. But a lot of times in the mind of a person like that, I don't believe that Yolanda had good intention from day one. I think that she was, there because of her own obsessive, crazy, delusional need to be in Selena's life, and her own empty, low self-esteem, awkward, empty life that she must have been living. I mean, she had a nursing career before getting involved with Selena and her family business. I don't really know a lot about Yolanda's personal life as far as, I'm guessing she never married, never had children. But the woman apparently just had some serious mental issues and wasn't getting any treatment for it and carrying that shit around, appearing normal at her place of business or with her friends or whatever. But I almost would bet that before she got close to Selena, that the people who got too close to her before Selena, I'm sure that they had trouble with her in some way. I'm sure that people noticed things, behaviors that, would have been strange. So, if you know the story, this is a 30-year-old case, what happened to Selena Quintanilla back in 1995. Yolanda worked her way into the Quintanilla family and became the head of Selena's fan club. But she started this shit before she ever met Selena. And I heard that at first Yolanda didn't even like Selena. that she didn't like it that Selena was starting to get awards and her favorite artists weren't. But then she attended a concert and started to become obsessed with her. You know, and it's like, okay, damn. I mean, I get it. You know, I understand being empty in life and needing a sense of direction and, you know, being admiring people and, you know, all these things. But what the hell makes a person just go off the deep end like that and become just completely consumed? I know it happens in romantic relationships a lot of the time. People become obsessed with each other and consumed with each other. Been there and done it. Raised in a certain type of family and have had a lot of codependency and self-esteem and all those types of issues to work through in my life, and you know, had to learn the hard way about some of that stuff. But a non-romantic situation and you're like, what the fuck is going on in there? Becoming obsessed, like, I don't know. It's just freaking weird to me what happened with Yolanda and Selena. And I personally feel like there are deeper spiritual aspects to the whole thing. There was something very dark, very evil, dark, life-sucking attached onto Yolanda Saldivar. Apparently, she was open to that kind of thing. She was not the same radiant, high-frequency, positive, beaming, creative energy that Selena was. And apparently, you know, and that's what I feel personally can happen to people, because it's tried to happen to me before. Anybody who stays in low vibrational frequency for too long, okay, it can make you very vulnerable to darker thought forms, darker energies, all that kind of thing. If you're battling depression, if you're going through a grief process, if you're angry, all that stuff's legitimate. I realize sometimes people can't help it. They cannot help it. They're doing the best they can to deal with that shit. But it's like a real battle, because to me, it feels like a battle for the soul. When you're have you ever noticed that shit? When you're at your lowest, you know, and it may not be something you're choosing to do. Some people do. They choose to just be depressed, angry, pissed off, bitter with the world, resentful, blaming everybody else, and never taking an action in the world to take their own responsibility and to try to transmute that energy and turn it around, even if they were done wrong, and that's legit. Some people choose to stay in that shit, and it just turns into a dark vortex. Other people are really not choosing to stay in it, but due to their mental chemistry, the wiring in their brains, disorders they may have coming through their genetic lines, and perhaps childhood trauma, different things happen in their life. Some people battle these mental illnesses and disorders and emotional issues and shit they've been through in their life, and they really fight hard. They really have a battle on their hands, wanting to stay in higher vibrational frequency, wanting to stay as upbeat and grateful and in a well-balanced, positive energy as they possibly can. But it's a real battle, and they got to battle it every day. Anxiety and fears and terror and phobia flooding through I know exactly what that's like, because I have an anxiety disorder. I also have PMDD, which is a very severe form of PMS that every single month, it's premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it's a mood disorder, and it is something that cannot be helped. And I have to go through a real battle every month to keep myself on the positive end of things. It takes me to a place that feels like hell in the mind. So sometimes people can't help it, but when we are at that lower place, have you ever noticed that it just seems like no matter what you try to do, shit starts going wrong? And then while you're trying to struggle your way through that, then this shit happens, and it, to me, when you're in lower vibrational frequency like that, it makes you very open and susceptible to dark energy and dark entity attachments from whatever dimension, the astral or whatever, to come in. and attach on to the energy field. And it can just turn into a fight for your emotional stability, a fight for your mental stability. I mean, I pick up on shit like that a lot, and I've had my own battles in this life with it, okay? And I think Yolanda was a person who was open to that kind of thing, and I think that that was her energy level. And a lot of times people aren't even aware of it. They don't even know what the hell what these words are. They don't even know what you're talking about. They're completely clueless. They're not that tuned in to who they are, what makes them act the way they act. They don't self-examine. They don't do self-inventory. They don't think like that. They just think about the next thing that they can fixate on to get a little bit of an ego boost, because they cannot manufacture that good energy for themselves, that creative life force. And, I'm going to accept myself. I'm going to work on my natural gifts. I may feel this way or look this way, or I may not be this, and this, but I'm going to work with whatever I was born with. And I'm going to try to be the very best at. They don't do that. They sit in this lower vibrational energy and are constantly looking outward, external to them, at what they can harvest, what energy they can attach and latch onto, and almost parasitically, to gain the energy that they need to emotionally survive, to emotionally feel like they're a part of this world, to feel like they are anything at all. Okay, it's very parasitic and very strange and very weird. Now, there are the psychological elements of all this, of course, and then there are the spiritual elements of it, okay? And both of them interest me very, very much. And I feel like it's all important and it all ties in together. So the erotomania with Yolanda Saldivar was that, yeah, she got into Selena's life. Eventually, she gained their trust, and she got put in charge of finances at Selena's clothing boutiques and whatnot. But behind Selena's back, basically, it was there was another side to her, and people were starting to see it. And that's what happens with a covert narcissist. They come in under all these false pretenses and, oh, so nice and anything for you and here to serve you. And I'm just so appreciative of everything you do. And I'm in such agreement with it and supportive of it. And they flip on you. It's like a bait and switch. And in a romantic situation, I've said the same thing about Chris Watts, because I feel that he and Saldivar are very similar in these ways. I feel they're both covert narcissistic. And I feel that that's exactly why people want to know, well, why did Shanann talk to him the way she did? And why did she seem to be? Because they get in your life and they pull a complete 180 after a while. And they don't do it all at one time. They do it ever so slowly over time. So it keeps you confused and frustrated and, your whole life kind of up in the air. And by this point, you're so emotionally invested in them that most of the time, especially romantically, you're not going to leave. You're going to try to figure this out. And, what the hell? Just like in the case with Yolanda and Selena, when people in her family and friends kind of started to notice these weird things about Saldivar. Hey, she's talking to people fucked up. She's firing people. She would get jealous and didn't want Selena close to anybody else, like the deal with Martin Gomez, the fashion designer, anybody that Selena looked up to or wanted to work with. Things were starting to get weird, okay? The covert narcissist cannot wear the mask forever, okay? It starts to drop, that mask. They just start doing strange things and people start picking up on it little by little until it generally ends in a bad way with these people. They usually do some flip, and then when they are finally discovered, when there's nowhere to hide their identity anymore, and they have to face the shame of who they really are, the fact that they've been a liar, a manipulator, that they're a totally different human being than what everybody thought. Generally, they flip out and do something horrible to cover their tracks, to avoid the shame. Now, most of the time, they don't take human life, okay? When this shit happens all the time. Unfortunately, it happens in romantic relationships. It happens in families. It happens at work. These people are around, but they don't all go off the deep end and, are going to take human life to cover their tracks. Not most of them don't go as far as Yolanda Saldivar and Chris Watts and some of these others that I've named, but they're capable of it. It's definitely possible with some of these people. It just really all depends. But I want to talk a little bit about what's involved in that. What's going on in the mind of a person like Saldivar. And that's exactly, I basically just summed it up. Like, she was in Selena's life to benefit this delusion. It wasn't really for legit business purposes. It wasn't really to be a true friend. It wasn't really to accept, the love and kindness and enjoy being a part of the family business and and build her own life on top of that. It was strictly to support these delusions within her that I am Selena's number one, and I have the power now, and I can call the shots now. And Selena, and the thing is, when a person like that who's had, and believe me, I've been through it all, just about all of these feelings growing up in what the hell I grew up in. So I feel like I can talk about it. Because goddamn me, if you grow up in some tough, rough surroundings and abuse and trauma and been through shit all your life, and you've applied yourself to making the changes and to becoming a better freaking person, I don't see any problem with you talking about it, And the thing with a person like that is when they finally do get a taste of out of their head and out of that horrible, lonely, awkward, what they hear in their head all day, low self-esteem, that it just beats down on them all the time, about how pathetic I feel and how pathetic I am and I'm nothing and how ugly and how low self-esteem and how when they finally get a taste of something outside of that, and they don't go about doing it the right way, in a healthy way. They tend to go about doing it in an obsessive, manipulative, underhanded way that requires harvesting energy from someone else and stealing it from them in one way or another, like a parasite. But when a person like that gets a taste and they get close to another human being, and that human being shows them kindness and interest and friendship or love, could be romantic, might not be. But man, when the people like that get a taste of it, I've seen it in my own personal life. Something clicks off in their head that becomes obsessive. It becomes irrational. It triggers. What it does is it triggers. And I've even had experiences like this, where coming from where I came from in the past, and when I would fall in love with somebody, becoming triggered with a million different things. And what happens is instant triggering of fear of loss. Now that I've got this thing, I could lose it. And what if something happens to them? And what if somebody takes them away from me? And what if they cheat? What if this? What if that? What if the other? So a lot of times people who have been through horrible things in their upbringing, they've had some kind of trauma, or they've got mental and emotional issues that they have never sought therapy for, that they've never, really tried to kind of work on their coping skills and putting in their emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. When something like that kicks off in a person's brain and they get close to somebody, that's what's running through their head a lot of times. They are triggered in a million different ways, except they have not grown in their emotional maturity enough to cope with those things reasonably, responsibly, and rationally. All the thoughts and feelings and fears that are being triggered off inside of them. Oh my God, this person is my best friend. And oh Jesus, what if I lose her? What if I don't have her in my life anymore? They're very, very obsessive like that because they have nothing in here. They have built nothing inside of themselves. And they are absolutely 100% dependent on the object of their affection or their fixation for their survival. It's really something else. That's why codependency can be very, very dangerous to even let it get started. Obsession, run, run. It is not love. It has nothing to do with love. I've heard young girls say shit like, I wish somebody would pay attention to me like that. You shouldn't be complaining. You should just be happy to have. Look here. Lonely, empty, never having gotten to know yourself, built your own identity, value as a human. It's deadly. It's dangerous. It's toxic. It has nothing to do with fucking love. For someone to obsess and obsess and obsess over you, people think that's good, and oh, that makes me feel so good. They just can't live without me. They just got to know where I'm at every second, and they'll go off if they see me with somebody else. Or hey, we've all been there and done it, y'all. I know I did when I was younger. I acted that way. I had people act that way about me. I was caught up in all of it. I've got all that experience behind me, but I've tried to turn it into wisdom. It's not love, okay? And most of the time, those situations ended badly. They did not turn out well at all. And that is not love. That is not how we treat people when we truly love and respect them. We have to work on learning to trust ourselves, love ourselves, value ourselves, and therefore get involved and trust another person. And just trust that, hey, they're going to do what it takes to treat me well. And if they don't, well, I'll handle it in the best interest of my health and well-being. And the best interest, and try to honor the situation all the way around and do what's best. I'm not going to go off the deep end. I'm not going to sit here and call every day and text every minute and fucking stay up all night and wonder okay, that type of obsessive love, I know, been there, done it. When you're young and naive and emotionally immature and you're still damaged and you have got a lot of issues you haven't healed yet, a lot of patterns you haven't worked out yet, you haven't been down through it, had yourself scrubbed down through there yet, had that face scrubbed in that concrete a few times by these damn people. I know, I get it. It's all cute and it feels so good. And, to be caught up in all that, it's not. It's scary. It's dangerous. And there are times it can become deadly. Okay? It is not love. All it is a bunch of fucking issues that somebody needs to deal with. Okay? And they haven't. And so when I even see a man starting to act that way these days, or a girl, those triggers, I don't do it anymore because I've had to go through it so many times and finally break free of it and heal that kind of codependent, obsessive type, situation that I used to allow myself to get in. But if I even see a person acting that way these days, I just think to myself, okay, this poor person, they don't even know. They really need some therapy. They really have some things going on in there that they're very insecure about, and things must have happened to them. And I'm not gonna, you have to get really good at sensing and reading energy and be careful what you get involved in these days. And I don't mean that in a playing way. Be careful what you get involved in. Be careful how close and how fast you let people come in. All right, so real quick before I cut this video, and then I'll do a part 2. I know sometimes I get to rambling off the point. But you guys, okay, so we talked about erotomania and what that is. And Yolanda had some of that, the way she talked about Selena, even after she took her life, saying things like, oh, Selena was never angry with me. She came in the hotel room. She threw herself at my feet and she begged me not to leave her. And I told Selena to just go, that it was over. This woman is really, really unhinged. She's really, really delusional. Saying things like, after she shot Selena, she was asked in an interview, well, when you held the gun to your head in the car for 9 hours, what stopped you from actually pulling the trigger? And she said, because Selena came to me and she loves me. And she told me, don't do it, Mom. Apparently, she said Selena called her mom, don't do it because we won't get to be together in heaven if you do it. Again, really unhinged, really, really delusional. And that's what a lot of these covert narc types are like. Chris Watts, kind of the same thing. They're always going to blame the other people. They're going to try their best to smear the good name of the other person. And they're going to want your pity. One of the main signature calling cards of a covert narcissist is pity. They want pity. Poor them. And, you know, it's weird because they play these characters that are just, oh, I would never hurt anyone. No. Oh, you know, they make people pity them, and they have that aura about them, but yet they can sit and talk to you just as plain as day without shedding one fucking tear, without so much as a lip quiver, without so much as a pause, without so much as an eyelash movement. They feel absolutely no remorse for their victims. They don't feel, they show, express no remorse whatsoever. They'll talk to you just as matter of fact. You know, shit, I got me a hamburger, and oh no, I don't, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Both Watts and Saldivar, if you watch their interviews, they're exactly the same. They show no emotion whatsoever. Remorse, guilt, feeling for what they've done to the beautiful lives that they took. So, guys, with Yolanda Saldivar, a lot of times with these covert narcs in general, like I said, you know, power and popularity, stuff they've never felt, never had, and basically they end up wanting to take it from others who've actually earned it. You know, Selena worked hard for her popularity. She worked hard in the entertainment industry, and she was such a beautiful, creative life force, and it just came natural to her. It wasn't she wasn't pretentious. She wasn't arrogant. She wasn't doing anything wrong except just being the natural, radiant, creative, beautiful life force that she came here to be, that she was born to be. And in a spiritual way, I believe that's what she was literally born onto this earth to do. Not just to sing and entertain, but to uplift the frequency of humanity. I agree with Sloan Bella very much and her reading on Selena Quintanilla. I believe that. It was fast and furious with Selena. From the time she was a little girl, she was on that path. And that's what she grew up doing, okay? And it was just all over her, that creative life force. And it's so radiant. It just pulsates and it projects outward, okay? And in her case, it has reached millions all over the world. But when an entity or energy, a dark energy and dark entity, like what was attached on to Yolanda Saldivar, spots a radiant, pulsating, vibrant, beautiful, pure heart, energy, life force like Selena, it will stop at nothing to get to that energy and try and harvest it and harvest it and harvest it until it's done with it, until that person is either found out, called out, or until something really tragic happens. Until something goes wrong, they will harvest and suck and drain and use and twist and do all they can get away with until the gig is up, until they are exposed, and then generally something really bad happens. Or in worst case scenario is what happened with Selena and Shanann Watts. In a lot of cases, it's where they discard you, they start cheating on you, they start attacking you and doing things to you to make you leave them. It is the discard of a narcissist. It is the most twisted, painful, horrible. But a lot of times, you know, it's not going to end up in murder like in the cases I'm discussing. But they're going to find a way to discard you. And usually it's horrific. It's painful. It's sudden. It's unwarranted, unmerited. They have no reason or right to be doing it to you at all. It's just that they've been found out. and you're no good to them anymore. You're no good to the delusion anymore. See, they came into your life under a delusion. Just like that's what happened with Yolanda coming into Selena's life. She came into her life under this delusion that she was everything to Selena. And she kept growing that delusion, you know, and trying to position herself, you know, that in that way. And when the delusion is up, or whatever's going on in the relationships and people's relationships or whatever, when you're no longer going along with them, they will find a way to discard you somehow. They flip out, and, you know, it happens in many different ways. But control is another thing with these people, these covert narcissistic types. Like I said, it triggers a lot of deep feelings in them that makes them start to feel very out of control, right? You know, and that could happen to any of us. You know, we're all human. We all have insecurities. We all have shit that we have to watch and work on. And I wouldn't be human if I sat here and said I didn't. But this level of crazy shit, I mean, this taking it to that level. But like I said, when we get close to people, it can trigger off very deep and sometimes scary feelings within us. And it can make us feel like out of control. You know, that's why a lot of us are like, no, I don't want to fall in love. No, I don't want to get too close. Oh, hold on, slow down now. We are being triggered when we fall in love. It brings up scary feelings. What if I lose this person? What if they cheat? What if this happens? What if that happens? You know, we're triggered like that, and it makes us feel what? Anxiety, out of control. We can't control those feelings. And people who are emotionally immature, deranged, irrational, they got all kinds of issues like Watts and Saldivar, covert narcs. They don't have the emotional maturity to process and responsibly cope with the feelings that are coming up within them. They're feeling out of control, and they're desperate to get some control. They're desperate to control all of the thoughts and feelings that are waving through them. They're just overwhelmed with, oh my God, it's like an addiction to that person. And they don't know how to process it and how to control it. So, in order to control all of that, basically that's why they manipulate. That's why they become obsessed. That's why they start to irrationally fixate on the other person. And in order to control all that anxiety they have over fear of losing, oh my God, I'm going to lose this source of energy that I've got. It's an addiction. That's not love. That's not caring for someone. That's not friendship. In order to control all that, they start doing all of these weird little things, weird little actions. It starts to come out, and people kind of start noticing it, these bizarre behaviors. And but yes, they're desperate for control, not only of all of the emotions running through them and being triggered, but they're desperate to control you and the situation and the narrative with you. And as long as they can control the narrative with you, they're in control, believe me. So all these people sitting out here talking shit about Shanae Watts, and oh, she was so controlling, a little bitch, and she was so emasculating to him, and you know, and in the Selena situation too, you know, people, that's what the narcissist wants you to do. That's what the covert narc wants. They've got you all duped and manipulated and believing that they're being so victimized and so controlled by somebody. And it's not. It's them in control. They are the fucking cowardly snakes weaving the webs, and they think they are the puppet masters. Pulling all the strings and putting on a sweet little pout for you. I'm so emasculated. And Yolanda, when really, in their mind, they're scoffing and laughing at y'all and pulling all the strings and weaving all the webs. And they know damn well that they're not sorry about it. That, you know, that they are in control, or they think they are. They think they're in control. But they are the ones the whole time controlling everything by fucking with people's heads, lying, manipulating, betraying, stealing, head games, fucking be saying one thing and doing another thing, gaslighting. They are in control the whole time because they're driving everyone around them crazy. Lying about it when we just saw them do it, it's crazy. So I don't want to hear that kind of shit about these victims anymore, especially Shanae Watts and that whole shit. Well, that's what the narcissists want. They even tried to do it to me in a situation before. Had his friends talking about she's just a controlling bitch, and if she would just let you do blah and blah and do and blah and blah. And he was the one controlling me. I wasn't controlling anything. He had me working 24/7 under his reign of, he was very sick, very alcoholic, in need of 24-hour round-the-clock care. Drop everything. I was there. He had me working 24/7, cooking, cleaning, bathing, fetching beer, cleaning up puke. I loved this man, don't get me wrong. He was a beautiful person. He wasn't a terrible person, but he had a lot of fucking problems. And I suffered a lot in that relationship. And he had this personality type. But he would lie about these things. He would gaslight and manipulate, and he would have people outside the relationship thinking, they just assume and think what they want because they see you angry. They see you frustrated with that partner. They see you speaking your mind and getting tired of being treated that way. And they see you as a controlling bitch who's condescending and emasculating, when the whole time that's not what the fuck's going on at all. You're basically their servant. If anyone is being controlled, it's you. It's you. And so that's what the narcissist does. They flip everything around to this inverted, crazy, mentally distorted reality. So yeah, they want control. And they get in and get it through gaining your pity. They want you to pity them. Feel sorry. I just love you. I would do anything. Please don't get rid of you. And that's how they control all of us, through that. Tell them to wipe that fucking shit off their face, or I will not speak to you. Until you can speak to me without playing pitiful, speak to me like a real person, and then we'll get to the bottom of some of this. When you start scrubbing that mask, without their pity, they don't have anything. Without their games, they don't have anything. Watch them flounder. Watch them. It's a mess, y'all. It is a mess. Okay, and shame. We've talked about control. We've talked about desire for power, desire for control. We've talked about triggering going off in them. So when we look at some of these cases, guys, it's a lot more than meets the eye, isn't it? When we really start breaking down what's going on inside of people, it is a lot more than meets the eye in a lot of these cases, yes. And shame. Shame is another thing that a covert narcissist absolutely cannot deal with, cannot face, will avoid at all costs. They'll do anything to cover their tracks to avoid shame. It's almost like they regress back into a little child or something. Like, they're going to be sent up to the chalkboard in front of the whole class, and everybody's going to laugh at me, and everybody's going to know that they go somewhere in their brain. And the reason I know that is because I lived with a person like that for many, many years. They go somewhere in their brain back to a childhood moment and time and state. And that's really what they're operating like at that moment. Now, they might act like an adult on different levels, on different days, and that's all fine, but don't let that fool you. There's a part of their brain that is not all the way developed. There's a part of their brain that is deranged, traumatized, not all the way matured, not rational. It's different for different people, but they are terrified of being shamed. And so all of this leading up to that day in the hotel room with Yolanda Saldivar and Selena going over there to pick up the documents. And here we go. We see that classic shit of Selena giving her more chances. See, the family and friends kind of started noticing and wanting to clip Yolanda's ass. But Selena just like people do in toxic romantic relationships, Selena was already energetically tied in with Yolanda in the friendship and the business, and she really didn't want to believe this of her friend. I get it. I've been down that road. I fought for years. I just wouldn't believe it. I did not want to believe this of my partner. I did not want to believe that he had these issues and that he would do such things to me. Okay? But, so we saw, Selena still employing Saldivar, still keeping her around for a while after, wanting to give her chances to prove her side, to come up with the documents, still taking trips with her here and there, and preparing, eventually to go ahead and get rid of her. But, it's kind of back and forth like that sometimes, because we really want to believe in the goodness of people. We do. It's not like, but ultimately, so, whew, Lord, it just overwhelms me thinking about it sometimes. So basically, Selena had given her all the chances that she could. Abraham, the father, he thinks that Saldivar actually attempted on Selena's life 3 more times besides the day that she actually did it, by luring Selena away to meet her and retrieve these documents, and because she had purchased a gun and then returned that gun and then went and bought another one. There's a lot to it. But finally, there was nowhere else to go with this, and Yolanda knew it. She was cornered. And it always happens that way. The covert narcissist, this is only part of it now. This is not the entire reason why they would flip out and commit murder, because honestly, I can't give you a sane answer to that. I can never, nobody can, give a 100%, this is the exact why a person would flip out and take a human life, like Chris Watts did, like Yolanda Saldivar did. Chris Watts took 3 human lives, 4 human lives, his own flesh and blood, children, wife, yeah. But part of it, we're breaking down different parts of the dynamics of things that build and build in these people and run through their minds, that they're not getting treatment for, that they're not reaching out and trying to sort through these things before something bad happens, right? The shame. That's what it was coming down to, and it always comes down like that. They don't want to carry that shame. They start feeling like little kids. Chris Watts, the same thing. Got the side girl, cheating on the pregnant wife. Oh my God, the whole community's going to think I'm a deadbeat father. I just want to run off with my hoe. I just want to run off with my side piece here and, do what I want to do. And I don't care. I'm on this power trip, but I need to look like the grieving father. I'm the victim here. I lost my family, and that's what the fuck he was trying to pull off, because the shame he was going to have to carry. They just can't face it like a rational, responsible human and just fucking take the heat on it. I want a divorce. I'm sorry. I've grown apart from you. I've grown out of love. Now, we need to co-parent these children, and we need to make some arrangements. They can't do that because, like I said, a part of their brain has not matured. It isn't developed all the way. And they are regressed all the way back into some little sniveling childhood space in their brain where everybody's going to point fingers at me and everybody's going to know. And there's something about that. It's so childlike. It is so immature. I don't want to be seen like that. I'm afraid of how people will view me. And there's something so raw and insecure. They're just eaten alive with that. And they'll do just about anything to hide that and protect it. And including, sometimes, unfortunately, murder. Wiping out his whole entire family. I mean, if that is not fucking deranged, I don't know what is. But these are a lot of the things that factor into it, okay? This is nowhere near, because who the fuck knows what all goes on in these people's minds. But these are some of the things that can factor into these situations and what people with similar personality types have acted like that I've observed before, been around and experienced before, gone through with them. These are what similar personality types can act like, be thinking like, be going through, and whatnot. So it all came down with Selena and Saldivar, the shame. Selena gave her as many chances as she could. She took her to the hospital. Saldivar claimed she had been the R word. Got to the hospital. Turns out that was a lie. She was just doing anything she could to try and buy time, to try and distract Selena's emotions, to try and continue the delusion, to keep control of the narrative. As long as they can keep control of the narrative, right? You know, unless they decide, like in Watt's case, he was done. He didn't care about controlling the narrative. Well, he did. He wanted to make everyone think he was the grieving father, the widower, or they'd been kidnapped and he was grieving and so lost without them. And he wanted to keep that narrative going, and the narrative that Shanann was a horrible person. She treated him horribly. She killed her own little girls, and then he killed her. He wanted to control the narrative, but within the relationship, he was ready to discard. He was ready for the final discard, and he did so in a horrific and vicious, brutal way. And he was ready. Usually, they'll try to replace you before they discard you. They'll try to replace you with a new supply. Remember, I talked about the harvesting of the energy like a parasite? Okay, well, he had found his new supply area, his new fuel source to parasitically attach onto, which was Nicole Kessinger, so that he could harvest her and, you know, get his self-esteem and his livelihood and his whole reason for being through another human being. Because it was done with Shanann. You know, she had caught on to his number. She had lived with him for 8 years, married, kids. She had seen what he really was behind closed doors, and that he was nothing like what he had claimed to be. Nothing. And that her whole emotional investment and love for him, she still tried to keep that going. A lot of people do that. I did the same thing. I accepted less and less and less and less and less. And you talk about mad. You talk about broken and betrayed and in shock and furious. And people have a right to be when they find out who you are. After you pressured and you pushed and you insisted. That's how he got into Shanann's life. That's how Yolanda got into the Quintanilla's lives. False pretenses, pressure, pushing. Oh, I'll just do everything, and I'm just going to be this, and I'm that. And they present, and they are a completely different person. So people have every right to be fucking pissed at them, talk to them like shit. They have no right to do that to people. That's complete and total violation. They are not giving people a choice. It's almost like taking people hostage energetically. If you think about it, yes. It is almost like that's how they are in control. That's right. That's what I'm saying. No, it's not she's a controlling bitch. And no, it's them. They take control of your life because they don't give you a choice. They don't lay out all the facts about who they really are and what their issues really are. And you don't get to have all the information you need to make the best choice you could make when getting involved with them. You're not given a choice. They don't ask your permission. They fake you out. So therefore, they are ultimately the controllers. And I want to make that clear to these people out here who are always and they don't fucking get it. Oh, she was just a controlling bitch. And, oh, well, the reason that he went off the deep end and did this, and this is because she was blah, 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 blah. They are the controllers. They come in doing it from day one. They are not who they say they are. And they are not giving you all the facts and information about who they really are, and they spring that on you later in a bait and switch in which you are basically trapped by then. You're emotionally invested, you're tied to them. It's really kind of hard to get out of the situation. You may have deep feelings for them, just like Selena and Yolanda. You know, Selena was a good, caring young lady who cared about people. And she didn't want to be cruel to Yolanda. She didn't want to believe this about her. She trusted her. So we all know what happened, unfortunately. Selena kept on giving her chances, and Yolanda was cornered. Finally, Selena got fed up. Who wouldn't? And that is when everything changes, you know. The narcissist looks at it like, you don't have any right to be angry with me. You don't have any right to talk to me that way. You don't have any right to, you know, want to put me out of your life, or you have no rights whatsoever in the mind of a narcissist, covert narcissist or whatever. So yeah, Selena got fed up, and she realized that her family was right and she should have listened. And, you know, she realized that Yolanda, and that's what's so scary and sad and terrifying, is that a lot of times they realize at the last minute when it's too late. And I can't even imagine the terror shooting through her, running through her brain and her mind and her chest at the time. Like that moment of realization. And this bitch has got a gun now, and I'm in here alone with her. God, if I just hadn't entered this fucking room today, you know, and y'all, I'm such an empath that I feel it in my stomach. You know, when I study a person's life story like Selena, and I am very fond of that person, it's almost like I can go back and almost feel what they were feeling in those moments of terror. I feel it's like electrical impulses, just shooting all over my body. And, you know, ultimately, Yolanda did not want to face that shame. And Selena's like, hey, okay, enough. You know, you really are pulling my leg here. You've jerked me all over the place, the hospital and this and the lies, and there's no documents. And Selena had every right to be getting upset. And so Yolanda decides the gig is up. And now Selena's going to walk out of this room, and I'm going to be the laughing stock of Texas. You know, Selena's a huge, huge person. Just about to cross over into the English market. She's got fashion design. She's got clothing stores. She's a major, major figure. People love her. And Yolanda, all these things are coming back to factor in. Control, power, shame, all of this. Selena's going to walk out this door any minute, and I'm out of her life. I have nothing if I don't have that. What? You know, she's being irrational. She's dependent on Selena's energy, dependent on her connection with Selena. And also, Selena's going to walk out of here and she's going to tell everybody. She's going to tell her husband. She's going to tell her family. They're going to laugh at me. They're going to hate me. And then it's going to spread because Selena is so famous. It's going to get into the news media. People are going to know me as a thief. My career is ruined. I won't even get to be a nurse again. I won't even be able to go down and work at the fucking Piggly Wiggly without being known now. Ashamed of what I did. I betrayed Selena, this beloved figure. Here's where the fucking shame factors in, and them not being able to face this massive amount of shame, this web that they've gotten themselves into, that it's their responsibility to face it. And she could have faced it. She could have put that fucking gun down and been a reasonable human being. And she could have worked it out with Selena. Selena was more than willing to hear her out, more than willing to give her chances. Yolanda could have worked this out with that family. She could have said, hey, look, I'm fucked up in the head. I admit I need some help. I've stolen from you. I can't produce your documents, but I want to repay you. I will do whatever it takes to make this right. She did not have to kill her. She did not, but Yolanda wanted to be in charge of the narrative and how this was going to go. The covert narcissist wants to have the ultimate power, the ultimate say-so, and definitely doesn't want to face all that shame. And they're so irrational, okay, and deranged and emotionally immature and all these things that they think that taking someone's life is the solution. That way, nobody will ever know the story. Nobody will ever, they somehow think that that's going to help them avoid shame when it's only bringing 1,000 times more onto them. But, that's in their mind. They're terrified of all this shame and, oh my God, people are going to point at me and they're going to think that and this, and the control factor. Oh no, you're not walking out of here. It's that thought for her that if I can't have you, and if I can't have the same clout in your life, position in your life, y'all are going to throw me out like a fucking piece of crap. That's, she's thinking like that, even though that's what she deserved. They gave her more than enough chances to be a friend, to clear her name. Like, oh, hell no, I'm controlling this narrative. If I can't have you, nobody can. And so irrational at that time, not thinking at all or caring one way or the other what she's about to do. How many people she's about to impact by taking this one person's life and cutting this beautiful life short. But all of these things factor into these people's heads. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that I know what the hell's in the mind of the people that do these kind of things, because I don't. I do not know. I'm just telling y'all what I pick up on. The energetic forces and things that I pick up on after watching their interviews and knowing the story and experience that I've had with certain types of people like this that have mental disorders and delusional disorders, and Jesus Christ, I've been around that kind of shit all my life. I've got more to delve into as far as this goes, but I'm going to wrap this one up, guys, because it has gotten awfully long. I'm hoping I can go ahead and upload it, but I think I pretty much covered also, I feel in a spiritual way that, yeah, Yolanda just became irrational and all of those things were going on. The fear of shame and the control factor. And by God, if the jig is up here and you're not going along with my narrative anymore, you're not showing me pity, you're not believing in me and my delusion anymore, you're not, okay, when you stop going along with their program, it's over. They are going to find a way to discard you somehow. And they're going to do it in a cruel and vicious way. And if it isn't by taking your life, it's by some other way that almost makes you feel like they've killed you. I went through that. Devastating the way they treat you when they're ready to discard you. Like you're less than shit. How they go from literally worshiping you, breathing your name 24/7, being at your, just worshiping you, obsessed with you, to instant they could take your life and you're not shit. That's because they were never ever truly connected to you in a healthy way to begin with. Not a loving, caring, positive, healthy way at all. At all. It's because they were there for their own damn ego. They were there to get their own fucking energy harvesting off of you. And that was it. And I know that's painful. It's horrible to understand. But in some ways, I feel like spiritually, on the spiritual level of this, it almost makes that narcissistic type person like Yolanda feel like, okay, now I've got control. I'm the woman who took Selena out of this world. And her name will forever be synonymous with mine. Wherever you hear Selena Quintanilla, you will also think of Yolanda Saldivar. Now, is that not some sick shit? But I think on some level, that's how these deranged, highly narcissistic, personality disordered, delusional individuals think. I've got the control now. And that this incident forever binds Selena to me. I mean, some of these people are really sick, really deranged. And, they're out there walking around in our midst, not getting the fucking help they need, the treatment they need. And you really just never know, you guys. But, okay, well, I still think even 30 years later, I can't even tell y'all. It literally makes me cry, even to this day. It's hard for me to even listen to certain songs by Selena. And I can't even imagine what her husband, her family went through. The pain. I think a lot of people feel that way about Selena. It's hard to even hear some of her songs. What a radiant presence. What she did on this earth in her very, very short life. And you know what? Like Song Bella was doing the reading on Selena and saying that whatever that presence was spiritually that had followed Selena from lifetime to lifetime and had continued to stop her from accomplishing her spiritual life goals so that her soul could continue evolving. We incarnate with these spiritual life goals to accomplish here on earth so that our soul can continue evolving. And one of Selena's main spiritual purposes, Sloan Bella talked about this, was to come and uplift the frequency of humanity, to spread love and light and inspiration through her music, which is what she did, which is what she was doing, and her fashions and just her radiant being. The way she spoke and smiled and reached out to other people and just her energy, period. She wasn't just here to be a singer. She wasn't just here to be a performer. That was the way in which she took that path to reach humanity for her spiritual purpose. And a lot of times people don't even know. They're not even thinking about that, or they're not realizing, the deeper spiritual purpose behind, how they're impacting the world, how they're impacting other human beings. They may just look at it like, oh, this is what I love to do, But it was just so meant to be with Selena. I'm going to do other videos about this, though. The passion coming through her, in that voice, the soul coming through her, whatever she was channeling in and tapping into when she performed, it was almost ancient. It just amazing to watch. Just something beyond this world sometimes. And ultimately, I think to myself, and Sloan Bella talked a lot about this, about how that dark entity was trying to stop Selena again. Whatever it was that was attached onto Yolanda Saldivar, moving through her and, dictating her, but it's her. Don't ever get me wrong. It's the human being's responsibility to not let that in, to work on our emotional and mental problems, to keep ourselves in a balanced place, to continue growing and handle things in a rational, responsible way. We're responsible for what we let into our energy field and how we open ourselves up to it. So they're responsible. I'll never be one of those people that's like, oh, something made them do it, or so I don't spin it out of context. It's not that. But I do believe in these types of energetic parasites, these types of energetic vortexes and dark entity attachments. But ultimately, I know this. It may have cut Selena's life short. Yolanda may have done that. And she brought a lot of pain and terror and fear upon the Quintanilla family. Sorrow, deep, deep sorrow and grief. And she put everything to a halt. Selena's young husband home waiting for her. The life that they had planned together to have children and live, have their acres of land and their beautiful home. And you know, continue designing clothing and singing and making music and just living life together. And God knows how Selena would have impacted humanity, how they together, she and Chris and all of the Q family, God knows what they all would have done had Selena lived. But I look at it like this. Even though Yolanda did cut that short, and she did stop a lot of things in its tracks, she did not stop the way Selena touched humanity. She did not. She did not. That darkness did not stop Selena's impact on the world. The bright, inspirational, beautiful, loving, compassionate, that goes on forever. Still 30 years later, her music is just as beautiful. People still listen to it. People still love her. People still remember her. They're still inspired by her. Her legacy goes on. And it inspires others to do what they love and keep their frequency high. And she really was a unique individual. And I'll get into more of that in another video. She had this unique blend, this balance about her that you don't often see in young girls anymore. That you don't see. I love the contrast of her energy, you know, how she was able to be sometimes fierce and sophisticated and almost regal and, you know, commanding with her stage presence and even aggressive and fierce. And all of these things, very mature and business savvy at times, but yet at the exact same time, and sensual, very, very sensual. I wouldn't say overly sexual, but very sensual. She didn't have to be overly sexual. She didn't have to twerk. She didn't have to do none of that to have this magnetic, attractive, to have people literally just in awe of her. She didn't have to do any of that shit, you know? And yet at the same time, with all of that, she had this, still was able to have this very pure, light-hearted, fun-loving, compassionate, kid-like, you know, joking around, cutting up, down to earth, Southern gal, sweetheart, absolute sweetheart with really good family values and a really pure heart, you know, clean cut, good role model. Love it. Love all those balances. And that she was able to balance that shit. She was a really unique cookie. She really was. And then, you know, that's just scratching the surface of Selena, what I saw in her and read from her energy. And we'll get into the rest of it at another time, though. I haven't even touched on that magnificent voice, that passion and soul, as if it was literally being channeled in from other realms. Like when she got on stage, she got into that zone that, you know, just amazing. Can you tell that I'm very passionate about Selena and her music? Okay, guys. But yeah, so I hope that provides a little bit of insight. Just my thoughts, feelings, perceptions, examinations. I hope you guys got something out of that. And I will see you guys in the next video.